Hey, welcome back. It's time for another big story, and this time we turn our attention to the ongoing legal saga involving former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello. Now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, seeking to arraign Bello on 19 counts of alleged money laundering, breach of trust and misappropriation of funds totaling 80.2 billion naira. Now, despite multiple court dates, Bello has consistently failed to appear, leading to heightened tensions and dramatic exchanges between the EFCC and Bello's defense team. Now, this case not only puts the former governor under scrutiny, but also raises significant questions about the administration of justice in Nigeria.
Now, during the latest court session, the EFCC's counsel, Kemi Pinheiro, urged the court to compel the defense to explain Bello's continued absence and to discipline the senior lawyers representing him for allegedly breaching professional conduct. Pinheiro argued that the defense action were dilatory and disrespectful to the court, likening the situation to Animal Farm if such conduct goes unpunished. Now, on the other hand, Bello's defense, led by Adedikwe, countered these claims by stating that they had not been able to ascertain Bello's whereabouts and criticized the EFCC for failing to execute an arrest warrant. The defense also sought to withdraw from the case, a request which the EFCC lawyer dismissed as a tactical afterthought. News Central correspondent was on ground, and also we spoke to him earlier in the week, but he joins us today. Umaru Kirara will be with us, and we'll be talking to him about the instance that happened in church, in court. We're also going to be joined by another guest this morning, and that would be none other than, we're hoping that Femi Fanwo will join us, but Mr. Samson Ojodomo Onuche, Managing Partner, Crest and Cradle Attorneys, is also joining us via video chat. Good morning, gentlemen.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Good morning. Thank you for having us at the program.
Now, Marvellous, you and I spoke during the week while you were at court. Please, can you give us a dynamic of exactly what happened at court with Yahaya Bello's absence and his prosecution and defense?
Well, the little drama that unfolded in court on Thursday is one too many cases of the dramas that happen in court when you see two legal counsels argue the law from both the eyes of the law and from the nose of the law. But that on Thursday, as regards to Yahaya Bello's case, is profound. Profound, I mean that, first of all, that Thursday was the 5th consecutive time the former governor of Kogi State failed to make an appearance in court to take his plea, either guilty or not guilty, as charged by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. So, of course, before now, the counsel to the former governor, Adeola Adedube's son, had promised the court that he was going to do all that he can to ensure that his client makes an appearance in court. And then the court and the prosecution team took his words for it. So both the prosecution team, the court, and the journalists were expecting that the former governor would make an appearance on Thursday. But sadly, that did not happen. And that was what ruffled the feather of the prosecution team, who now, was visibly angry. He expressed his displeasure that the former governor, this is the 5th time he has failed to make an appearance in court. And then he gave, in fact, there were 2 applications raised by those legal counsels, both Kemi Pinheiro, who is the counsel for EFCC, and Adeola Adedube, who is the counsel for the former governor of Kogi State. Now, the application from the prosecution team, which is the EFCC, he said that because that the senior advocate, who is a judicial officer, gave his words to the court that he's going to provide his client in court that Thursday, and he failed to do so, that the court should, invoke disciplinary measures against him by docking him so that he can give reasons why he did not, produce the former governor despite promising the court. And now, while that one was going on, the legal counsel to Yahaya Bello also stood up and gave a counter application that since it is like this, that he wants to apply he wants to apply an order of the court to step down his appearance for the former governor. Now, he is saying that the counsel to EFCC is trying to demean his person in front of the court, that he's saying that he made a promise and failed to honor that promise. And him, in his own counter argument, he said he didn't promise the court that he was going to produce the former governor. All he said is that the court should give him time, or should give him the opportunity to try to consult with the elders. And, you know, that term, elders, was not made clear enough. We don't know whether he's talking about the elders in Kogi State or the elders in my village. I don't know. But he said that they should give him time to consult the elders so that they can persuade the former governor to be in court. And the counsel to EFCC said, how do you mean? Is your client more bigger than you that you cannot persuade your client to be in court? And so therefore, the trial judge, Justice Emeka Nwite, after listening to the arguments, now scheduled, adjourned to the 17th of July,
all right, now,
for ruling on those applications.
I'm going to crave your indulgence, as well as Mr. Samson, if you would please. Do give us a bit of a time, because we have to go for the headlines now. But when we get back, we're still going to be talking about this instance from court from Thursday with you gentlemen. So do stay tuned and permit us to go for the headlines.
It signifies, as a counsel in the matter representing the defendants, the ex-governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, you actually have the right to withdraw your legal representation at any point in time that you feel that you cannot continue the representation of a defendant in a criminal matter. But when the counsel chooses to withdraw, it is something that is his right to withdraw, and the court will definitely allow him to withdraw. And I don't see it as something that will store a criminal matter, because if a counsel decides to withdraw his appearances for the defendants, it behoves on the defendant to look for another counsel that will take up his defense. So I do not see that as a procedure that will store what has been going on, because it is actually not the duty of the defense counsel to produce his the suspect before the court. Is the duty of the prosecution, which is the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, to produce the ex-governor, the suspects that they are bringing to court, and it behoves on them to produce that suspect to court, and it doesn't stop the proceedings from going on.
Now, with that being said, there was also a motion for the defense. The defense was requesting to transfer the case to Kogi State. Now, do you believe that this move is justified, and how might it even affect the legal proceedings and public trust in the judicial system?
The defendant has a right to request that the matter be transferred to the jurisdiction of Kogi State, based on the fact that the major part of this offense, which is embezzling of the state fund, which is Kogi State, happened in Kogi State, and the fund actually belongs to Kogi State, and the court in Kogi State has jurisdiction to try this matter. But when you look at the status of the Federal High Court in Nigeria, the Federal High Court has the status that is one and the same. So even if you have a Federal High Court sitting in Abuja, it's the same thing with the Federal High Court that is sitting in Kogi. However, for the purpose of convenience in getting witnesses and in also getting other things that will assist the court, it is also right for the defendant to ask that the matter be taken to the Federal High Court in Kogi State. So I do not see any issue in that, just that it's wrong for a defendant who has never appeared in court to be making such requests before the court, because you are supposed to appear before the court from the very first day that the case is brought before the court, before you can begin to make such application before the court.
Now, Senior Advocate Adedipe it was suggested that he be docked. I want to take this back to the drama that happened in court on Thursday. And of course, Marvellous, you were there. I'm going to tie this into a question with you, Mr. Ojomade, in just a bit. But Marvellous, if you could give us an idea of what happened inside of court when he was suggested to be docked. This is because he had previously, in previous proceedings, what's the word I'm looking for now? He insisted that on the next occasion, he was definitely going to make sure that Yahaya Bello was present. Was that right? Am I correct, Marvellous?
All right. Okay. Yes, you're very correct. And in fact, it was, there were two that are representing Yahaya Bello, him and then Abdul Wahab Mohammed SAN. So in fact, the call to be docked is for the two sons, actually. But now, what you understand is that in situations where there is a conflict between a lawyer's duty to their client and duty to the court, their duty to the court must prevail. They must be diligent in the observance of undertakings, not to mislead the court. And now, on the 13th of June, he had promised the court that he was going to produce this former governor to be arraigned to take his plea. And that he was going to consult with the elders.
Okay,
to,
now you mentioned that.
Intervene.
Now, based on that, Mr. Ojomade, was there any right for prosecution to then insist or suggest that he be docked based on the fact that he had promised to produce Yahaya Bello?
Personally, I feel that if the counsel promised to produce a suspect before the court and the counsel failed to do such acts that he has actually spoken before the court, it affects the integrity of the counsel who has made such promises. But however, legally, that counsel is not the surety for the defendant. And it is not his duty to produce the suspect before the court. It's the duty of the prosecution to produce the suspect before the court. But just that if that particular promise or misrepresentation is made before the court and the prosecution usually will go ahead and act based on the promise that the counsel has made to the court. So I do not feel that that is a reason for the court to dock a counsel for not producing a defendant before the court, because it is not his duty to produce the defendant.
Is there currently a warrant for arrest of Yahaya Bello? Is there currently a warrant for arrest for Yahaya Bello at the moment?
There should be a for arrest, because he is a person that has been. And before you are declared wanted, there should be a warrant for arrest. And I believe the commission has the power to, and also the machinery to effect the arrest on the ex-governor.
Well, I want to come to you, Marvellous, for this next question, right? And it's simply about, you were in the court, right? And you've heard both sides, the EFCC and the defense team, the counsel. What was a compelling argument that the defense had when it comes to the ex-governor? And what was the judge's response to that argument?
Well, before I answer that question, let me respond a little bit to the last question that was being asked to the guest. Yes, there is a subsisting court order to arrest Yahaya Bello. And in fact, the argument presented by Bello's counsel was that since the EFCC counsel is calling for him to be docked because of his inability to produce Yahaya Bello, then he's not asking the question between him and the legal counsel to EFCC, who is in disobedience, because there is a subsisting court order to get Yahaya Bello arrested. So if they have not, carried out that court order, why are they trying to, apportion or push the blame on him? Now, back to your question. I mean, this is a criminal case as it is, and before anything will go ahead, Yahaya Bello needs to make an appearance in court to take his plea, either guilty or not guilty, to give room for the trial to commence properly. But from on Thursday, some of the argument brought forward by the counsel of EFCC is that they need to produce Yahaya Bello in court. And in fact, before the trial judge, Justice Emeka Nwite, adjourned that case to on the 17th of July, he ruled that both the two legal representatives of Yahaya Bello and Yahaya Bello must be present in court before he rules on those two applications. Now, calling for the docking of Yahaya Bello's counsel, of course, this is not the first time legal counsels have been docked. You could recall the former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onogen, was once docked by the Code of Conduct Tribunal. So we are still, looking forward to 17 to know what the trial judge, Justice Emeka Nwite, will do on those two applications.
And as per the EFCC, were there any compelling argument on their own part?
The argument is still on the fact that Yahaya Bello needs to be present in court to take his plea before the trial commences. Nothing will happen until he takes his plea, either guilty or not guilty, to pave way for the trial to commence. So he needs to make an appearance, he needs to come to court so that the trial, he either take guilty or not guilty, so that the trial will commence. Of course, they already get the charge sheet is there. What the EFCC are alleging on him is there, so it's just for him to come and take his plea.
It makes me wonder, Samson, it makes me wonder with the disappearance or the absence of Yahaya Bello and this case in general, what it would mean and the implications it would mean in the legal system when there will be subsequent cases like this. Will there be some sort of redress or, I mean, talk to me, you are in the legal arm of things. How will this impact future cases like this?
Mr. Ojemade, that would be for you.
We have had a lot of... Yes, we have had a lot of cases where the defendants have tried to avoid court proceedings, and we know that it actually touches on it's a matter that has to do with the disobedience to the court, and is an issue that must be taken seriously. Now, for a defendant, you ought to be in court from the very first day to take your plea. And I think the disobedience to by the state government, by the ex-governor to be in court is an issue that touches on the jurisdiction of the court, because the court cannot go ahead without him being there. So it affects the whole proceedings. And I think it's something that is very bad, because the court cannot make an order and you feel that you are bigger than the court to appear. I think it's something that is very wrong, and it will definitely have an impact on how the common man perceives the order of the court. So it has an impact on the judicial system of Nigeria.
Okay, now, Marvellous, what are we waiting for? What next now, since after Thursday's non-appearance?
We are still waiting till the adjourned date, which is on the 17th of July, for the trial judge, Justice Emeka Nwite, to give his ruling on those two applications. And what are those two applications? One is the one filed by the prosecution, which is the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, calling for the docking of Yahaya Bello's counsel for his inability to hold sway to his promise of producing Yahaya Bello in court. And then the second one is the one filed by the man himself, the legal counsel to Yahaya Bello, asking for discontinuance of representation of Yahaya Bello. But I think, in a way, let's diffuse this conversation a bit. Let's take it away from Yahaya Bello. Let's take it away from the court a bit. Will you permit me to do that?
Please go ahead. I would like you to.
All right. Now, let's talk about graft as a whole. You knew when EFCC besieged Yahaya Bello's Abuja residence to get him arrested, we knew there are some people within that vicinity. In fact, some people who were hearing that were people from Kogi State actually stalled that arrest. And now, beyond that, we also see that there are still some people from Kogi State who are calling on the EFCC not to prosecute Yahaya Bello. And these are people who do not even understand the fact at hand, this is an embezzlement of 80.2 billion naira, which when you plug back that money into the economy of Kogi State, you're going to see what will happen in that state. Then beyond that, I mean, the culture of graft, you could remember in May 14, 2014, the then head of civil service, Juan Ayo, raised an alarm that dishonesty and graft was taking over the civil service. And then she said that graft, dishonesty is now taking over integrity and meritocracy, and that meritocracy has taken a sudden flight. And she called for the purge of the civil service. And what are we seeing in the fight against graft till now? From 1999 till date, who are these people who had besieged our political space? When Nigeria was moving away from military, rule to democratic rule, civil rule in 1999, what was the national conversation? Did we hold a national conversation to say, hey guys, this is a new system of government that we are going into, we are still alien to it? What would be the political ideologies? What would be the political philosophies that will help us to run through this new, system of government that we are We didn't have that conversation. And what happened? Float Psalms and Gem Psalms besieged the political space, and them on their own began to dictate what would be the political philosophy that will guide Nigeria's political system. And what is that philosophy? They introduced the culture of graft, they introduced dishonesty, and all. And that is why up to today, you see that some of the governors who had ruled Nigeria from 1999 to today, some of them had at some point been fingered by anti-graft agencies of one alleged involvement in financial misconduct or the other.
That is very true,
and then some
Marvellous.
people are saying that, yes, at the end of the day,
true.
The National Assembly becomes their bedroom. Once they are done with their, ruling the state, they come to the National Assembly, which is now a form of like a bedroom for them. So
okay.
The truth is, at the end of the day, we should ask ourselves, those who are in the political space, what type of an ancestor do you want to become? Is it an ancestor that provided the needed service, the needed infrastructure that affected people's life in your state? Or do you want to become an ancestor that mortgage the destiny of Nigeria, that mortgage the financial future of Nigeria?
Very good questions, Marvellous. Absolutely.
Conscience is the answer. But unfortunately, in this part of the society where we are, conscience seems to be a luxury.
Marvellous.
That's the case.
Marvellous.
Beautiful.
I must say, the argument that you just made is one that is pertinent and very important. And you said something. You said we've now glorified craft and dishonesty, and it's no more about bureaucracy and honesty and fairness and transparency. And you ask a very, very important question: what would we want to see from our ancestors and predecessors? And that's amazing. So thank you so much, right? And this is to say that we were supposed to have a representative from the Kogi State government who was supposed to come on here and speak to that matter, because you said something when there was an arrest there were allegations that there were indigents of the state who were holding back, who were stalling that arrest. And so we're supposed to ask him about, what it would mean for the people of Kogi when they see that their ex-governor is on the run and should face, these accusations being leveled against him. But Marvellous Obomanu, thank you so much.
That was marvellous. Thank you very much. However, I won't let you go. There was something that you said, and I'm hoping to get Mr. Ojomade's intake on this one. Regarding the defense being asked about the whereabouts of Yahaya Bello, and him saying that he'll have to consult with the elders. Now, that in quote, elders, is that, in your opinion, Mr. Ojomade, an inkling of where Yahaya Bello could be or where investigations should start? Who are these elders? Where are they? What did he mean by elders? What do you think the EFCC should do with that information, and even if we're providing it for them? Mr. Ojomade, please.
The mere fact of mentioning the word elders, I think is a word that is a bit ambiguous, and I wouldn't know who are the elders, and I wouldn't know what the council was referring to, consultation with the elders. So I wouldn't react much to that, but I don't know who are the elders.
Well, okay, thank you very much. Well, I guess that's one more buzzword that we're going to be hearing throughout the entire week as we continue to follow this story, or, well, play this game of where is Waldo. I want to say thank you very much, Marvellous Obomanu, and of course, Samson Ojomade. Thank you very much for joining us for this very interesting discourse here as we still continue to search for Yahaya Bello and wait to see what further from this instance. Thank you, gentlemen.
My pleasure.
Thank you for having me on the program.